Killing it.
Mike Agerbo here. I've got my fellow app nerds, Graham Williams, John Biehler. We've got a cool show today. We're going to be covering a few interesting things. Later on, we'll be talking about the top apps of the year. What were the hot apps? Well, we'll give you that rundown. Also, Google versus DuckDuckGo. If you're a big Google user, we're going to talk about an alternative that might be better for you. Yes.
I like my DuckDuckGo.
I really haven't used it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we'll get your expertise on that. And we'll be talking about China. They are now requiring citizens who want a cell phone plan to have their faces scanned. I know. You're face palming right now, Graham.
Good Lord. Okay.
I know, but if you buy a cell phone plan now, you have to provide identification, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's something about perhaps my driver's license number that isn't, I don't know, my face. So
How much? But is it that different?
it kind of is, right?
Yeah.
There's this layer of obfuscation. Anyway, we'll talk about it, but frustrating.
We will. It's a pretty big deal over there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the app news this week. This one was kind of interesting. Finally, there's an official Craigslist app.
Ta-da!
So now they can bring that crappy interface to an app.
It only works on a Palm Pilot, though.
Which you can buy lots of on Craigslist. It's a self-perpetuating business.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I use Craigslist quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I love it and hate it at the same time because the website is literally, it feels like from the 90s.
And I mean, there's a bit of this moment where the desktop version is actually slightly better than the mobile version, but typically you want to take pictures of things. So you're taking pictures of them on your phone. So you struggle through the mobile version anyway. It kind of is a hate-hate relationship,
Then you get to deal with the other people trying to buy your stuff.
which is a hate-hate-hate relationship.
So, yeah, unfortunately, where we are in British Columbia, Vancouver, Craigslist is kind of the dominant buy and sell app.
Mhm.
Over in Eastern Canada, I believe it's more Kijiji,
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
which I love Kijiji, but it doesn't do as well when I post things there in BC anyways. But what I love about Kijiji, it's got a nice interface. If the post expires, all your information doesn't just evaporate like the pictures and things.
I use Facebook Marketplace myself.
Yeah, I don't like everyone on my friends knowing what I'm
Well,
selling.
I don't put everything I want to sell there, but
Okay.
for certain things, it's a lot easier and less drama-free. You're not full of no-name lowballers. At least you know their name.
Yeah.
They're going to lowball you.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's really the thing that I found no matter where I am selling things now, I usually will put, because people are like, is the price firm? I'm like, is water wet? And I didn't post this so that I could have a negotiation. I want to sell it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Craigslist's strategy is usually what? Put it up for $20, $50 more than you expect to sell it for so that someone can feel like they got a deal. Right?
I love playing the game.
I know.
Well, now there's an app for that available for iOS and in beta for Android.
Ooh.
So I haven't tried it yet, but I'm excited. Apparently, it's got the same color scheme as the website.
So black and white, got it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's blue.
Ooh.
There's a blue there as
Really,
well.
really stepping out of their comfort zone there.
Yeah, I'm interested to try it out. I wish that they would maybe take a step further and update the web version as well.
So here's an interesting thing. I actually found this not too long ago. Your posts don't evaporate. There is an archived post section.
Yes, but
You can renew.
yes, 100%.
Yep.
But at a certain point, it douses all the pictures. So then if I want to renew, I got to go in and find the pictures again and attach it again to the ad.
Fair.
And so, I've got a few things up there at a time sometimes, and it's just a pain in the butt to go get all the pictures again.
You got a vast empire of like 20-year-old electronics up there, don't you?
You just sold a Sony ebook reader the other day from like the 80s.
I did. I sold an ebook reader. It was one of the first Sony ones, and I paid $400 for this thing, and it's been sitting in a drawer, and I found it. I'm like, this has got to be worth something. Anyway, I think I got $30 for it.
I expect Harrison Ford is going to show up in a fedora and be like, this belongs in a museum.
Yeah, but from 400 down to 30. But still, that's a few beers after work.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, I have drawers full of old tech.
I think any tech nerd does.
And so my wife is just fed up. Like, there's one room in my house. It was my office, and she just said, your time is over.
Now it's a Craigslist showroom.
No, I had to take it all out. So now it's in the garage. Now my garage is full of literally this 10-year-old tech. And I can't throw it away.
See, the nice thing is once it gets old enough, it becomes vintage, and then you can give it to your friends as gifts. Hey, remember that old record player that you really wanted? I've got one for you.
So, the funny story is I use Craigslist all the time for I've got these old video cards, these old ATI Radeon video cards. And I don't know why I have so many. Well, I guess because we're a tech show.
Yeah.
But they, again, have been sitting in a drawer and I've been selling them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'm getting $15 or $20, but
I think we should set up Mike's Garage on Facebook Marketplace. And so that people in the audience can just kind of make an offer.
Then all my friends will know I'm a weirdo tech hoarder. And
Mike,
oh
they already
my
know.
God.
They know.
He's trying to sell a Palm Pilot. What's wrong with him?
It's okay. There's a Craigslist app for it now.
That's right.
No, but again, you would be surprised that there is this large community out there that still likes to work with the old tech.
Yeah, hoarders.
One man's tech junk is another man's tech treasure.
Right.
Is what we're saying. Okay, another story. Plex. This is an app that I have just fallen in love with. It's been around for many years. It allows you to basically share your content on your different devices, your smart TVs and your mobile devices. Well, they're really trying to up the streaming game now by offering a free TV and movie service.
Really?
Yeah.
Where do they get the content?
Public domain.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Does it come with an eye patch?
Is it A-list content? No. But you're getting C-list content.
Like the Turkish version of Star Trek?
I will say sometimes those old movies, I get on Shaw, they have the movie channels that are sorted by decades, right?
Yeah.
The 80s movie channel is actually kind of great just to have on in the background.
Okay.
Because you always find something that is familiar, fun, and it's on in the background, so you don't care.
You're really selling this.
So I looked through the choices there. If you love Tom Berenger or Billy Baldwin, and all their fine movies.
Oh, yes, my third favorite Baldwin brother.
There's a lot of their
Baldwins
of their work on there.
Okay, so Plex.
Plex,
Does the service have a name? Is it just
it's Plex.
It's just Plex streaming, I
It's
guess?
Plex streaming. So
it is ad supported.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're trying to be your spot for streaming content, essentially. Okay. And that's the way the world's going, right? Because cable, everything's going. It's so funny now. They're bundling together streaming services now, especially down in the US.
Well, we did this a couple weeks ago.
And I'm just saying that's cable TV, essentially.
I mean, we did this a couple of weeks ago. I think we
did all the math.
Like my bill came out to $160 a month. I mean, the main difference now, you mentioned.
Yeah, you sure are saving money, you cord cutter.
Well, you mentioned ad supported.
Yes.
Right? I haven't watched a commercial outside of waiting for 5 seconds to elapse on YouTube in probably years. So
I'm looking at your web browser. There's ads all over that. It's even more targeted now.
I've become blind to them.
So yeah, it's interesting. How well will it do?
It can't hurt, and just gives you something else to watch if you run out of your own personal content that you're using Plex for.
It's time for some Billy Baldwin.
That's right.
Okay, we're gonna have to take a break. When we come back, we have a lot of cool app-related content to talk about. We're gonna be chatting about Google versus DuckDuckGo. We will also be looking at the top apps of the year. And coming up now, after this break, China now is scanning mobile users' faces for their giant database. Before we get to our main story this week about China scanning all their mobile phone users in the country, let's get our iOS tip of the week.
So our iOS tip of the week is actually related to robocalls. Are you guys tired of robocalls?
You know what? I'm getting a lot of them on my cell phone, either from the Canadian government saying I have done something bad and I owe them money, or WestJet.
I've won a lot of cruises recently.
Oh, cruises. Oh my God. That's the next one. Cruises.
Yeah. So here's the cool thing. In iOS 13, you can actually kick unknown callers to the curb and silence these calls. Now, the calls still come in, but they don't make your phone ring, which is kind of handy. So you go to the settings app, tap phone, you can actually see a little toggle there that says silence unknown callers. Anyone that is not in your database or that isn't broadcasting valid caller ID information will be sent directly to your missed calls. I've got one small tip for you as well. And I know this works on Rogers. I don't know if it works on other carriers. I've noticed that regular people's numbers around here in British Columbia, they're 604-778. They're actually hyphenated. So it'll be 604-555-1212. The spoofed calls are missing the dashes.
Quite often it's like a somewhere overseas country code that starts to look like 604 or something like that.
Here's the interesting thing. In the last 2 months, these calls have started to say that they're coming from Kelowna, they're coming from Burnaby, they're coming from Surrey. The only indicator now is the fact that those dashes are missing. And every single one that I have checked in the last 2 weeks, if the dashes are missing, it's them. If I let it go to voicemail, I get the cruise ship honk. So I'm pretty sure this is it. They can't spoof the dashes. So if you're on Rogers and you see a phone number come up without dashes, don't answer it.
Thank you, Graham. That was your iPhone tip of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, that works for every smartphone.
Yeah.
Really. Okay, so let's talk about China. China telecom operators now are required to scan the faces of people registering new phones. The mandatory portrait matching officially began this week and means that customers have to record themselves turning their head and blinking if they want to register for a new phone number. This is part of China's overall strategy to combat fraud and tighten down cyberspace controls. They got their faces now. So, you know, the challenge I'm having here is what they do with those faces. Because we have heard that they want to give all of their citizens a personal social score based on behavior. And I don't know what they're going to use that social score for, but...
Well, this is sort of an interesting thing, right? Because we're seeing the pervasiveness of closed-circuit television and that CCTV has facial recognition built in. So with this data, you will not be able to go anywhere in China without the government being able to map exactly where you've been.
I've seen TV shows about this.
This is dystopia.
I will say, though, they've been able to do this for years. They're just making it easier for them to recognize citizens. A few years ago, I was in Shanghai with a friend who left his wallet, including his passport, in a cab. And he panicked, and we ended up going to the police station in Shanghai, and they were able to retrace our steps 5 hours earlier to the hotel that we started from.
No kidding.
And tracked our cab across the city using CCT cameras and found the cabbie that had his wallet.
See, this sounds like something where people are like, well, the man got his wallet back. This is fantastic.
Or they caught this criminal.
But I also will say, though, too, is that when I was there for that same trip, I was trying to get a SIM card in China, which was very difficult to do because of the rules that these telecom companies already had. They wanted to actually take my passport and hold that when I created my account for that SIM card. So,
but a lot of countries are like that.
Right. But I just wanted the SIM card for like the time, like the week I was there, right?
So when you say hold your passport, for how long?
While I was there.
Give you the SIM card, you give them the passport.
Give it back, I get my passport
You're
back.
like, throw me the whip. You're like, throw me the idol.
Yeah. So seriously, so if you wanted that SIM card for the week, you'd have to go to that store.
Yeah.
And they would hold your passport that whole week.
Yeah.
There is
I
nothing.
said no way.
No way.
There's nothing about China that makes me want to visit right now. There really isn't. So
The noodles, though.
here's the thing.
Yeah,
I was
those
walking.
noodle houses are fantastic.
I was walking my dog yesterday, right at the corner of Hastings and Abbott, and as I'm standing there, a man crosses the street. He's clearly very angry, and he smacks this Volkswagen right on the taillight, and the taillight smashes.
Oh.
Right? And there's a bunch of us standing around, and we yelled after the guy, like, what's going on? Wouldn't turn around. I was wearing a hoodie. I couldn't see who this was. And so I was thinking, like, CCTV would solve this problem, right? Like we would probably have his face. We would probably be able to track him down. And then I kind of looked at it and I went, is that a power that I want to trust my government with? Right? Like, do we put up with a certain amount of societal uncomfortability, losing a wallet for the fact that I really don't want them to be able to know where I'm going and what I'm doing? I just feel like that's not something our government should do.
But it's also something that I think people have discovered all kinds of countermeasures for, whether it be face paint, masks, hoodies, helmets, all kinds of different things that are specifically designed and colored to mess with facial recognition technology.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing, though. When I've been in China,
Yep.
and we've seen a lot of demonstrations. We've gone to these, smart cities, and this amazing the information they're tracking. Like, so the facial recognition from the CCTV cameras. There's also tracking of vehicles as well. There's this one city where all the motorcycles and mopeds all have tracking systems on them. And you know what? I asked them about this. I'm like, oh my God, you're tracking everyone. They're like, yeah, it's not a problem. Like, a lot of the citizens don't care. They don't. They've been, I guess, conditioned over the years to see this as a positive thing to keep an orderly society.
Until they're disappeared into a prison camp. Like, we really do have to call that out. This is something that is happening there right now. And it's like this beautiful shining city on the hill, and then suddenly you're not allowed to be there anymore. And where do you go? It worries me. It worries me a lot.
So these CCTV cameras are everywhere. The U.S. now, per capita, is one of the most heavily, I guess, photographed countries in the world now because of CCTV cameras per capita.
It's interesting because in their case, they have the highest mass shooting rate in the world. You think they would be able to do something about that beforehand. So we've kind of got these two examples of major superpowers where it's like bad stuff happens over here in the US and we don't hear about bad stuff happening out of China, probably because they've got a bit of a lock on their media there. And we do know that people are disappearing over there. It doesn't seem like this actually solves anything at all other than giving the people in charge more information about the stuff that we do.
It's all going that way, though, Grant.
Oh.
Because they already know. So, I mean, we're making a big deal out of this right now. They're scanning mobile users' faces if they want a new cell phone plan. But they already know everything about you, Graham. If they wanted to track you down, it's super easy. I'm going to look at your Instagram account and your Facebook account. I know everything about you.
What you had for lunch.
I know what you had for lunch. Where you're going to be this weekend. I mean, is it a big thing anymore?
And you volunteered all that.
I'm going to Mars with Elon Musk. I'm out of here.
Okay, when we come back from the break, we're talking Google versus DuckDuckGo. Couple questions there. What is DuckDuckGo, and why should it replace Google? Don't forget to visit our website. It's at GetConnectedMedia.com. It has our video and audio podcasts of the app show every week, and also our sister show, Get Connected. And we've got a great contest going right now. We're giving away an Epson EcoTank printer. This thing is freaking amazing. You buy the printer, and it comes with basically 2 years of ink. Mm-hmm. And when you need to get more ink, you buy bottles. So you're not buying cartridges. You save about 80 cartridges.
I've got to say, this is the first type of printer that when I've used it, I don't feel frustrated.
No, it's beautiful. I've used one for a couple of years now, and I have kids, mm-hmm. and they're awful when it comes to printing. They'll print out full-page color photos like it's going out of style, and that's costing you a small fortune.
And the tanks themselves, like the replacements, aren't expensive.
The bottles, no. It's about $60 for 4 bottles, for all the colors.
But they last a really, really long time.
2 years.
Yeah, versus
roughly.
Some of the competition where I think the ink is actually more expensive than blood.
And gold.
Yeah, and gas.
Yeah.
And saffron.
And saffron.
So we're tired of ink printers. This one's kind of cool.
Again, GetConnectedMedia.com if you want to try to enter and win an Epson EcoTank printer. Check it out. Google, biggest search engine in the world.
Yes.
There are alternatives. We're going to be talking about DuckDuckGo. Mm-hmm. Explain what DuckDuckGo is for the listeners that don't know what that is.
So DuckDuckGo is a search engine that you can set as your default in a number of browsers, right? You can set it as your default in Chrome. You can set it as your default in Safari on both iOS and on macOS. And it's a search engine that values your privacy first.
Okay.
So
we should point out it's also the default on a Raspberry Pi if you use one of those.
That's correct. Yeah. So if you do like your techie stuff, Raspberry Pi has this as the default search engine. And the idea here is that unlike Google that is building a profile of you with everything that you search, DuckDuckGo does not. And so they have been working at this for, I'd say it's almost a decade now, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually a really, really cool search tool. It also does some other neat stuff. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can do some cool things. Like if you type in QR and a website address, it'll give you a QR code for that. Kind of bizarre, kind of fun. So there's tons of cool and fun things that you can do with DuckDuckGo. And so the question here is, as a user, is it good enough for you to switch to?
Is it? Is it Bing? Because whenever I get Bing, somehow it gets taken over on my browser. I feel violated
Yeah, and that's the thing is like,
because it sucks.
I would say DuckDuckGo is not Bing.
Okay.
No.
Given between the two, I've actually switched to DuckDuckGo on a number of my browsers. Now, here's the thing. You can still pop over to Google and use it when you want. But when you're using DuckDuckGo, instead of getting ads at the top of the page, right, you get organic search results. And I think we've all kind of been guilty of that as we do a Google search and we click the first link that we see, and you're kind of sitting there going, this isn't really exactly what I wanted. I wonder why Google gave me that. You go back and it was an ad.
Yeah.
So that's sort of one of the biggest things. Now, that's not to say that DuckDuckGo doesn't have ads, right? But they are at the bottom of the page, and they are not targeted to you based on your search on your search profile.
I think the key point here is this is something for people that are really kind of fed up with the privacy issues, having all of their stuff tracked, having the ads for stuff that they literally just Googled for show up in their Facebook.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of thing. So DuckDuckGo definitely turns a lot of that stuff off and gives you back your privacy in your browsing searching history.
Yeah. No, so a lot of folks out there use their search engine to try to find physical locations, right? DuckDuckGo is tied into Bing Maps to start off with. Wait. You can actually
Mike's
change
triggered.
it to Google Maps, Here Maps, or One Street Map if you want to in the settings. So the idea here is that you've actually got a little bit more granular control over your privacy and over your life.
It sounds though that this is more aimed at the nerds.
Well, and I think
I mean,
that's,
can it replace Google for normal people?
I think that's what Google would really hope people think.
Yeah.
Right? Because the question is, when you search for something, do you find the thing that you're looking for? And I'm finding increasingly that when I use DuckDuckGo, I am. So to change this, it's not a difficult thing. You go into the settings of your browser, and there is a drop-down list. And you'll actually see Bing, you'll see DuckDuckGo, you'll see Google, and a few others. And so being able to just select that, here's the challenge that I would throw out to our listeners out there. Give this a shot, right? It's actually a fairly effective search engine. If you find that you don't get something, you can switch over just by going to google.ca and seeing if you can search that way. But, to answer your question directly, can this replace Google? Well, no, it can't unless we as the user base give it a shot, right? And so it's been going for about 10 years. I started switching over to them about 3 or 4 years ago. And I've kind of bounced back and forth in that time, but I'm finding I'm increasingly spending my time more with DuckDuckGo.
So you give it a thumbs up.
I give it a thumbs up. Yeah, there's like I said, there's some cool stuff you can do in there. You can make lorem ipsum text. So for writers out there, if you're doing that, you can actually just type in lorem ipsum and it will give you a chunk of text. It does QR codes. You can search calendars. You can put a stopwatch in there. It's really neat.
And it's free to try. So that's the key point.
Can't lose. Let's talk about the top Apple apps for 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are an iPhone user or iPad user, these are some fantastic apps that you should try out. Let's start with the iPhone app of the year. And this is one that you've used before, John, Spectra Camera from Lux Optics.
Yeah, this is a really cool app that lets you take long exposure photos handheld. So we were in Paris earlier this year. We went to the Louvre.
It's very romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a very, very hot date.
Yeah.
And we went to take a nice picture of the pyramids in front of the museum, and there's 1 billion people there.
Yeah.
So you stand still, you run this app, and it basically uses artificial intelligence to sort of figure out what it needs to capture when there's nobody in that particular spot, and it essentially gives you a long exposure of your scene with no people in it.
Yeah. So
But handheld is the key word there.
That's the key, because normally you would have to do this with a tripod.
Because you're just not steady enough.
No, and it actually will compensate for all that stuff. And the pictures turn out pretty cool. I've even tried it just on the street in front of the studio as well, and it's fantastic.
I did this when I was in Greece, but I actually used a DSLR. I used a tripod, and then I went back into Photoshop and basically equalized all of the differences in the photo. And it erases people, which is fascinating. But that was, I've got to say, like hours of preparation, work to get a couple of photos, whereas with Spectre, and I mean, I've loved using this app. It's just hit the button and don't move,
Yeah.
And it's not like you need to be, still like a statue. Just don't bounce around.
Don't turn around.
and you get some really, really cool photos out of it.
Even if it's not completely people free, they turn into more like light streaks almost, which actually can add to the photo too.
Yeah. The developer of this app also has another iPhone app out there called Halide. And so this was one of the first apps that gave users access to the depth camera. And so when the iPhone 7 first came out, being able to take portrait pictures of animals was difficult because it didn't quite get animals yet. And so you could actually use this.
This all comes back to your cat, right?
My cat pictures,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It also was the first app, I think, to give you access to the raw image data as well.
That's correct.
So if you're a photographer, typically you would shoot in RAW, not a compressed format. And this was one of the first ones to unlock that functionality.
So this app, John, Spectra Camera, is this one you would use every time you're taking pictures or kind of more specialized?
I save it for those unique locations where you really want to have a good shot that you can't get because there's too many people around or too much other things moving. This allows you to get rid of that movement and have like not a ghost town, but a very different look to that scene than you typically see, especially like on Instagram and other places.
For sure.
Let's move over to the iPad app of the year, and it is Flow by the people at Moleskine.
Yeah.
Everyone probably knows what a Moleskine is, like the little books that you write in.
Yeah.
They've got Moleskine stores. Well, they have an iPad app as well. You can draw and sketch in their digital notebook app. So this is great also for people that have an Apple Pencil.
Yeah, and honestly, this is a really, really fun app. The one thing that I found that went really well with this is I've got a matte screen cover for my iPad Pro, and it gives just a little bit of resistance on the Apple Pencil. That plus this app really gives you the feeling like you're writing in a notebook and drawing in a notebook. It's actually it's a great little app.
That's the transition I have to make because I do take notes, believe it or not. But it's still traditionally on paper. But I love my iPad and I've got the Apple Pencil. It just I got to take this mind leap to get more into taking notes on the iPad.
We should get you one of these matte screen covers because again, what I found when I first started to try to take notes on the iPad was the slick surface didn't really match the cadence of my writing. We've been writing on paper for years. I imagine, kids that are growing up nowadays that the first place that they write is on a flat surface with no resistance. They'd probably have more trouble on paper. But this is actually a good way for us to make the transition from the analog into the digital.
Let's look at the Mac app of the year. This is called Affinity Publisher from Serif Labs. I don't know if you've tried this one before.
I have, yeah. Affinity's doing some really
You guys have
great
used
stuff.
every single one of these apps. I'm like looking at some of them like, I've never heard of this one. You nerds.
Well,
Okay.
Affinity's doing some really great things in this space, and they're challenging Microsoft, they're challenging Adobe at really, really low prices.
What would they compete against? What
So-
programs or apps?
So this one here, there was Microsoft Publisher.
Yep.
Apple has their own Pages app, which I would put this up there with Pages.
You love Pages.
I love Pages.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I read a novel in Pages, literally.
Yeah.
So it's a great piece of software. But Affinity is quite powerful, and if you kind of like the ability to sort of turn dials and flip switches, Affinity actually gives you some very granular control over your document publishing. I've got a friend of mine right now who's putting together a photo book, and he's building it in Affinity Publisher.
And so for the listeners, is this like a beginner entry? You have to be more advanced to use it?
I think you can start out as a beginner, and
Yeah.
it will walk you through to the more complex stuff.
It has all the functionality that you could ever grow into.
But it'll help make your whatever you're making look professional.
Yes.
Yeah, and they have a whole suite of products, like Graham said, that kind of compete against Adobe, for example. So they have a Photoshop comparable product. They have a Illustrator comparable product. So depending on what you're trying to do, and this particular publisher app, it can all bring all those different things in together.
Let's look at some of the best games of 2019. The iPhone game of the year, Sky, Children of the Light. We've talked about this one.
We have indeed. I love this game. It's really fun. It's got this fun sense of exploration and adventure. This is from the same people that brought us Journey. They brought us Flower. They brought us Flow. So these cool, really neat games of being able to explore these beautiful stylized worlds. Honestly, I can't recommend this one enough.
I haven't played it yet, so I'm going to try this out. iPad game of the year, Hyper Light Drifter. by Abbey SL.
This one's really interesting because the developer actually wrote the game about his struggle with his heart condition.
Okay.
And so it's sort of it's a 16-bit version of Zelda and kind of crossed with Dark Souls. So it's quite challenging. But as an action adventure game, it's quite good. I will say that if you are going to play this game, the touch controls, not my favorite. So if you're going to do it with iOS 13, you can pair it up with an Xbox controller, a PlayStation controller, or any Bluetooth controller.
To your iPad.
To your iPad. You'll have a much better experience with that. But the story of this game, it's a little hard to kind of tease out, but it's actually quite meaningful.
You know my favorite part of this segment right now is every app that we're talking about, Graham's got like some detailed story. Oh, the developer here was, it's around his heart condition. I'm like, where do you have the time? Like, seriously.
It's okay, I've got an app for that.
You weirdo. Don't forget to visit our website for the app show. It's called GetConnectedMedia.com. It's got our video and audio podcasts. And we're giving away an Epson printer, an EcoTank printer. We've got a little bit of time left to check out John's app pick of the week. What do you got?
This week, it's called Foodie.
Foodie.
And that's
Everyone loves taking photos of their food.
well, that's what the camera was made for on the
That's
smartphone.
right. So this is, it's called Foodie Camera for Your Life. This is for Android and iOS, and it's free. So if you like taking photos of your meals, like who doesn't, this lets you document their preparation. It gives you all kinds of filters, live filters that you can try before you actually take your photo. They have 30 live filters, and you can shoot photo and video with this particular app. I'm always like concerned about using a filter with food because sometimes I see people.
That's your life problem.
It is.
Okay.
Because sometimes people take photos of their food and it's like, that looks disgusting.
Yeah.
But I know what it actually looked like in real life. And I'm like, why would you post that photo? It looks horrible. Because you use a dumb filter.
Is that about the filter, or is that just about the taste of the person who's taking the picture?
Well, could
Throwing
be.
a little shade here, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, so you can preview everything with this app to make sure it doesn't look like some kind of garbage. And it even uses your phone's gyroscope to tell you when you're holding it perfectly level for those coveted top-down shots.
oh, I like
So
that.
if you're an Instagrammer, would you use this?
Probably.
Yeah. You wouldn't just use Instagram photo?
No.
No.
Nobody uses the camera app that's built into Instagram. They use their own camera apps.
Oh, so I'm a loser.
Yeah.
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 It's okay. We can
God,
fix you. We've
it's
got
so
Foodie.
easy to become a loser in the digital age, like overnight. So this one is Foodie.
Foodie.
And again, free for Android and iOS. You know, it's interesting talking about food. I've been playing around with my Huawei smartphone. I think it's the P30. And they've got that feature on which it can detect what you're taking a picture of.
Yes.
It is freaking amazing. Like it's when it comes to food. I was trying it out at dinner the other night, and it's pretty good.
It's
Because you'll take a picture, and it'll tell you, oh, that's broccoli or that's an apple.
Yeah.
And then try to give you the calorie count as well.
Neat.
Wow.
They need to tie
I
that in
didn't know that.
with the facial recognition. That's Brock.
Lee.
Broccoli. Oh, that's bad. That's a really bad joke.
Very, very Soylent Green.
And neither is for dads.
Okay, that's all the time we have left for the app show. Want to thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to hit our website. We're giving away an Epson EcoTank printer. Again, getconnectedmedia.com. You got to check it out. This is Mike, Graham, and John logging off. We'll see you again next time.